Welcome everyone, Simon here from the Wells of Wall Street. We have an update video here on IOTX. We have seen phenomenal gains today. Before we go into the chart, just a few roundup pieces of IOTX and just a general overview, guys, of just really drilling down the principle of why I'm interested in this project in particular, but also just generally the sector of IoT and AI. So my background in the real world, as it were, is very heavily based within AI and IoT, certainly for the last 5-6 years. Amongst that, randomly through esports partnerships and stuff like that. I'm not going into my whole CV here, but yeah, I'm very much perhaps on the knowledge front, understanding what is now and what is coming in the AI sector. And we've done a few videos previously, not just on IOTX. We follow a lot of other projects like Fetch AI. We've done a couple of things on Matrix AI as well, and IOTA, of course, absolutely phenomenal project. But this is one that I feel is quite a bit of a gem. Compared to IOTA, it's quite similar in its principles and what it's trying to achieve. We'll go into that in a second with a bit of a comparison because there is some really interesting detail here. But for you guys out there that perhaps are new to IoT or what's going on, so IoT is basically stands for Internet of Things, right? So this is basically any kind of device you can possibly think of that is connected to the internet. Now you see more and more recently, particularly in the smart home market, for example, which covers a multitude of different areas right now. You can look at smartphones, of course, but you've got things like washing machines, kettles, smart security cameras, lighting, all of these things connected to the internet now. So the emphasis is, in terms of adoption, here in the UK has been quite slow in general. The Americans have probably been doing it for a good 10 years or so. And there's an adoption across Europe and whatnot. But in the UK, just quite recently, certainly the last 4 or 5 years, has really increased. So now people are buying things like robotic vacuums and all of these kind of things as well. All usually interlacing with apps on your phone, automation in terms of geofencing, which means like, the closer you get to your house, certain things turn on and vice versa. And it's leading to things like smart heating, smart energy, of course, related to a lot of the things that we talk about in other videos like Energy Web Token and other projects like that. But bringing this back down to IOTX, guys, so basically the company name is IOTEX, but it's IOTX on the exchange. There's a couple of things here. So we covered this in the previous, I won't go into massive detail, but the Pebble, very interesting little device. This isn't necessarily what entirely IOTX is about, but what it is doing is starting the algorithm of AI and arguably beginning the transition essentially of the human to machine learning. Now this particular Pebble tracker is things like GPS. It can monitor weather, so it's almost like a barometer, I think they call them back in the day, and in terms of your activity, the different light sources, humidity, all of these things are being tracked. Now, the more and more people that have these, we have pre-ordered one, by the way, so I'm looking forward to doing a little review on this for you guys. The more that happens along this, and with the interaction with other apps and things like this, so SDKs, by the way, for those that sort of don't know, so very much around SDKs like software development kit. Okay, so it's kind of like a set of tools or development application that a multitude of different people or organizations would use, particularly if you are a developer or a coder, in fact, helping sort of modulate and enhance application aspects or APIs, and just essentially wrapping it. And in particular, blockchain is quite important, of course, because you've got all these different algorithms of coding, trustworthiness, and all of this aspect coming together. So when you're integrating things like Wi-Fi and GPS, SDK aspect, the developer kit and the back end is extremely important. So they've done a big job of this. As with anything and everything, the more data you have, the more emphasis of potential results you can get. And looking into the future, guys, so there's a lot about this. You could have this in your car or on you walking around and this, that, and the other. There's not really a like any barriers as such as to what you can and cannot use this for. But from the car aspect, eventually all this data will collate. And the more data you have, the more the machines learn. And the more the machine learns, the more automated it becomes. And then thus, eventually, M2M, which is machine to machine learning. So this is what we're aiming towards, is not necessarily humanity, but the next phase of the revolution of internet and devices. So eventually, we will get the machines learning so much that they don't need our input anymore, and they'll do things on our behalf that, based on subject to certain laws and physics and this, that, and the other, and the code of robotics, I guess. You've seen like the films like iRobot and stuff. It's quite crazy, but actually that is on very much the verge. We've got contactless payments, we've got automated cars coming very soon, and of course this transition of how does that all work. And this brings me back to my point, guys, really, about my sort of intake on crypto. I do have a video coming end of the week about how I got into crypto and stuff, and education aspects of it. And for me, I've had so many questions over the last 10 years from a multitude of different aspects of life. And one of them was always about the AI aspect, because I understand AI. I'm very much heavily involved, as I mentioned, and some integration of some really like SaaS, so like the software development of stuff, and the integration of certain devices. But I never really sort of understood how is it all going to interlace within like what they called the smart grid. So about maybe 8 years ago or so, I went to a few events and learned a lot about the 5G inbound and 6G coming, of course, even up to 7G has been used in some countries around the world. That's fine. And I get the connectivity aspect. What I couldn't understand is the integration of blockchain in general. Sorry, not blockchain, the smart grid. And then when I learned about blockchain, I was like, wow, this clicks in my head. And I understood finally that actually, as well as cloud, blockchain is going to have a substantial influence in the way the smart grid and everything works within this ecosystem. So very much so, these pebbles and arguably what's to come in other projects similar is the start of learning, the machine learning from our data, from our experiences and our behaviors to then make decisions on our behalf. And what I mean by that is it could be contractual, it could be based around a decision of life and death, or not necessarily I'm talking about like in hospital time. I'm talking about like you remember in iRobot when the robot comes in and decides which one they should take because of the levels, percentage of survival rates and stuff like that. That's what I mean. All these different things. And that's the same for transport, like cars and everything. How many cars are using the road? We've got like smart motorways here in the UK. Apparently they're abolishing them anyway. And I'm not surprised, because I think blockchain's way more advanced than these smart motorways. And I'm sure in other countries, let us know if you have these kind of smart motorways, which are supposed to be interlacing like traffic flow and speeds and things like this. Of course, as cars getting more automated and we're going into the EV world, and we're talking about things like EWT and the whole interaction of AI and IoT within energy sector, tokenomics, blockchain, it's all going to be interlaced, guys. So making the world very much more sustainable, more efficient, cost effective, and taking us to another level and allowing humans essentially start moving back into things like exploration and things that humans were designed to do. We were never designed to stand still. We were designed to explore, be one with nature and this, that and the other. And I believe that most aspects of blockchain are going to allow us to do that. I'm talking about, decades from now, but we're on the path. So these trackers are an important part of that beginning aspect. So you can pre-order them, you can go on here. But essentially, there's so much more to the IOTX project. Of course, we talk about it in our intro video, which I'll leave a link to at the end of this video. But there's lots of things going on. I will go through this lecture that went on today, Mobi community around IOTX and the transportation ecosystem. So trusted vehicle tracking. So this goes back about to the Pebble, again about learning AI, algorithms of car transportation, people's movements. Why do they go, what do they go for, how long for, and then eventually when you see an iRobot with all these cars automated and driving at different paces and all interlaced together and you're just sat there, this is the kind of thing that is developing that movement forwards. So hopefully that kind of gets into your minds, like the beginning of this aspect of why they're doing it. And it's not just transportation, it's a multitude of different things, Internet of Things, right? So it's everything and everything connected to the internet. So of course, massive things here. IOTA, we have done an intro video on that recently as well, but I'm not going to go too much detail on this, but I thought this was quite interesting. So obviously it's talking about the Pebble tracker again, and a couple of other aspects, because they've got things like smart cameras and other things going on. They're one of the few IoT projects on Coinbase, which is of course a big thing. But look at this. I thought it was really interesting, and hopefully you guys can see this. I'm going to zoom in slightly. I know it's a bit of a blurry image, unfortunately, on this website. But IOT is a massive project, right? But I find this really interesting. So IOTX is, price-wise, is extremely undervalued in my opinion. We've said that from day one. We believe it was my pick of an IoT gem earlier this year, and I still stand by that, irrespective of the fact that I hold IOTA, and I think that is a gigantic project in itself, and you're going to need all of the different ones for blockchain and IoT and infrastructure of blockchain and everything to work. Okay, so but I just wanted to put this in context, because we're currently on IOTA 1.0 version, and we've got the 1.5 on the radar, and arguably in the future as well. But already IOTX is ahead. So maximum transactions per second, of course, right now it's not very good at all. Even in the new one, it's still half the capacity of the network abilities. Confirmation times are a lot quicker. Smart contract capabilities are already engaged. I'm sure the Crystallis version IOTA, maybe 2.0, maybe have that aspect. And they've got a few devices that they're testing on. More importantly for me is the decentralization of that aspect. Okay, so centralized on IOTA, and this kind of pulls to the point that IOTA obviously being very heavily involved in like European commissions and all sorts of different governance aspects, at a high level. I always have not concerns, but like centralized to me is like the sort of crazy films that you see, right? You're still in a system. But decentralization to me means a bit more of a power to the people and more reward to the people. So we talk about things like activity to earn. We talked about this in regards to like the Black Mirror series, about being able to social score and be rewarded for good behavior and this, that, and the other, or helping someone. You can reward them with tokens and stuff. So this decentralized aspect works on so many different levels, and it's really important in my mind that and that's the whole point of blockchain. Blockchain was designed to be decentralized. But there's a lot of projects out there still pushing for the centralized system. Doesn't mean I don't invest in them, because I think there's two worlds to this, and it would be exactly the same with the metaverse. There'll be centralized and decentralized. So you got the consensus mechanism. They don't have one. I love that. Don't have one. Okay, no explanation, just don't have one. So yeah, DPoS on there as well. And there's a few other bits and pieces here. EVM, which is quite important as well, and they have that also. Can't have it without smart contracts. So this is around, I think EVM is around the Ethereum virtual machine. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what the EVM aspect is about. So the integration of different blockchains. Hacking incidents 0. Okay, I'm gonna have to double check that, and we do have some software that can help with that, but I'm gonna go with this as for now. And there's loads of other bits and pieces here that are taking the advantage of IOTA. So these projects, like I said, are quite similar. But IOTX for me is massively undervalued compared to IOTA. It's massively undervalued in general. And I think there's massive movement here. These guys do go on to say that it is so undervalued that they reckon there'll be 100 times return for current holders. So that is really interesting thing to bring out, and I do generally believe that. And when I talk about investing in projects, IOTX, yeah, you'll definitely get some gains in the next few months. But for me, it's a massive long-term hold, and I hope to accumulate more in potential winter market, because I generally believe the tokenomics aspect of AI and IoT within blockchain is going to be gigantic. We've done some research recently for a video. Multi trillions of dollars, guys. This market is applicable to. Again, other integrations with regards to now payments. So utilizing IOTX to be able to actually hold transactions as payments, as well as an integration of the tokenomics within the blockchain. There's a multitude of different coins on there already. And then you've got essentially this, which I thought was quite interesting. It's the first ever IoT blockchain enterprise pilot with IOTX and IIC. So this is around medical supplies, supply chain in general, and transportation. But healthcare for me is massive. And I have a few projects like Solve Care, for example, and a few others that I invest in this area. But when we're talking about IoT and AI, this goes back to the original point about the infrastructure of AI and the algorithms and the learning. Because eventually, guys, these pebbles, not necessarily the pebble, but we will eventually have chips within us. Okay, so there's patents going through with Microsoft, for example, right now. It's inevitable that eventually we will be connected to the internet with our own bodies. And this will be unbelievable on a multiple scale. So things like being able to detect whether you're ill before you know, like things like heart attacks and this, that, and the other. You know, Simon, you're going to have a heart attack next week or the week after, based on the algorithm of your body and this, that, and whatever. An ambulance is on its way, done. You could maybe have like medicines ordered in advance, or your vaccines and stuff, all monitored, tracked. So in terms of sustainability and making sure from the supply chain mechanism that we're not wasting emissions and things like this, it's going to make a gigantic difference. And we are, like I said, right now in the human to machine learning development stage. This eventually, whether it be 10, 20, 30 years time or whatever, will become machine to machine. To the point where there just won't be any human interaction needed at all. It would have learned so much. So this is very much the first stepping stones, and IOTX is one of the key projects behind this aspect of technology and, more importantly, application. So check out a few of these articles. It's very interesting. There's a massive interlacing of multitude of devices, aspects of projects, and this, that, and the other. So for me, like I said, it was my pick earlier this year as the IoT or AI gem. I truly stand by that. And let us know if you're holding IOTX or IOTA or any of the other AI and IoT projects. And if you want any more information, you know where I am. Just leave a comment with questions, or if you want to contact us through Twitter and stuff, I'm on hand to emphasize any points. I want people to learn more and more about this, because not only just from our personal lifestyle and lives in general, the way it will interlace and integrate, but also from the fact that if people are maybe wanting more research or questions around before they invest. Obviously, I'm not a financial advisor, but I certainly feel that I can bring to the table some information or further information around IoT and AI. So, like I said, I'm more than happy to bring more discussion to you guys about this if you enjoy it and want to know more. That's what this space is about for me, is everyone learning, everyone gaining at this as much as they can, sharing ideas and preparing for the future. I love this project. It's absolutely phenomenal. And on that note, guys, let's jump into this phenomenal chart movement. So smash that like button if you're enjoying the content. Subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. And if you're new, welcome aboard, everyone, wherever you are in the world. So guys, look at this. I think we've had a good 70 odd 80% increase in the last 24 hours. Just going to double check that. So we bounced around from this roundabout starting the day at 7.3 cents, I think 7.7 cents opening, sorry. So we have shot up, guys, to almost touching the previous all-time high around that 15 cent mark. We did have a very good go today thus far. It's not the end of the day, but we're looking like, guys, we might see us maybe have a bit of stabilization and really push for this in the coming days. There's a lot of activity going on here. Don't forget, people tend to FOMO in on exchanges and stuff when they see it as one of the key gainers and things like this. So do be wary of that. We're very top heavy on the RSI down here on this chart. I'm just going to pull this up before we go into a bit more analysis on the actual chart part. But for me, I've literally just taken some IOTX out myself, just because I've been buying my IOTX at like 1 cent or something silly. So there's plenty of room in the tank for this project in the next couple of months in terms of the price point. But for now, just be wary. Of course, we might still go up a bit more, but we are very top heavy. So this isn't like a hype video or anything like that. Jump in, blah, blah, blah. It's very much saying from our analysis, from our thoughts, not financial advice, of course. Just be wary when you're jumping into projects when they've done things like this. And you see a similar repeat back here. Let's just go back to the chart a second, guys. So we had this kind of repeated movement back here with a previous announcement and everything. So we got the Moby event going today, which is the one I want to do a analysis on when it's finished with tomorrow's update video. And obviously something's been said here in this event, as well as of course the Pebble launching in general as well. But we go back to here in August, which I actually think was when the Pebble was announced that it was very much finished and on its way, if I remember correctly. And we have this massive rise up from the 9th of the August, and look, 2, 3, 4 days of movement. And in fact, that move itself alone, from the 9th all the way up to this over a 3 or 4 day period, 500% gains. Now, that could potentially happen here, guys. And if that was to happen, I'm not saying that it will definitely happen or go to that immediate effect. Let's just take it from this bottom page from yesterday. We're going way up to the spectrum of well over 20 cents at least. There's potential that we could go up silly numbers here, but I've said it for ages. IOTX is massively undervalued. Awareness will kick in, and more importantly, the adoption and projects will kick in. But let's just be wary. Let's just be wary, guys. I'm not saying that it will definitely go up to this, but we can at least envision that we will have potentially some more movement over the next 2 or 3 days, similar to this, maybe not as big a gains. Because I think way back down here, when I was buying it like 1-2 cents, I thought this is ridiculous price. We've sort of reflected. We've had a nice correction, which we've obtained sort of balance here around 22nd September. We've had some really good stabilization. And I've said, I think, along the way that this is stabilizing and it's a very good accumulation point, because at some point this will go and it will never come back, in my opinion. Like when I'm talking about like a few years time, you look back at any of these prices and it will look ridiculous. You see we're very much in a buying stage today. We're going to have a bit of retracement. It'd be very interesting to see if we gain support here around the 11.5 cent mark, or we come and pull ourselves back to around 9.5, or perhaps even float above that 10 cents. So in my opinion, the next 24 hours are really crucial to see where we finish this day off. So like I said, the RSI very high right now, around 84, very, very top heavy. But the last few days have been really positive. And I just wanted to see if we can have a quick look, if I can. So right here, if you can see, the 30th of October, we had a switch over on the MACD, and that's when it started the big intake. So it didn't take much really for us to pull this move together. But let's see where we go. We'll update you guys by the weekend, but certainly in the next 1 or 2 days, if we see any reflective support lines or any potential thought around moving up further, we'll let you know. Because there are obviously, on the way up, there's always opportunities to potentially sell and reaccumulate. But also people might be interested in the drop downs, potential areas of buying if it's an interesting project to you. So we'll cover that in the next video, but I'm quite interested to see the barriers that we may hit. But it's quite clear that this 15 cents was a major resistance right now as of recording. Doesn't mean we won't go and try it again later today or tomorrow or something. But we have to see. I'm very interested. This is the key critical part, guys, is if we obtain this kind of area here around 11.5 cents. If we can do that, we'll probably have another push up. But we'll have to just see how that pans out. So, guys, we'll do an update video, as I said, in the next 24-48 hours. We'll keep a firm eye on this. But hopefully you guys have found this really informative. And like I said, if you want any more information on AI and IoT projects or in general the topic, just drop us a line on Twitter or in the comments below, and we will definitely support you guys with as much knowledge as we can on this topic. I'm very passionate and excited about the AI and IoT industry and what I do for work, as well as what's coming for anyone and everyone out there. So guys, thank you so much for watching, and we will catch you in the next IOTX video. Bye bye.